Oh, I don't know what it is, but it has writing on it. What is this?
$250 fine or imprisonment for disturbing this. Well, hey folks, my name is Brad. If you happen to be new to my videos, I explore the mountains of Vermont searching for treasure with my metal detector. And today, I once again find myself up in the mountains, standing in front of an old stone foundation from a home that was here, stretching back to the early 1800s. Now, the land that I'm on today historically has been used for harvesting maple sap, and it still is today. You will likely see the sap lines running from tree to tree, so there's no telling what we might find here today. Old coins or jewelry or household items from the building itself, or some other treasures lost by the sugaring operations over the years. Now, if this happens to be one of the first of my videos that you've seen, I publish one of these every single Friday. So if you like what you see here today, consider hitting that subscribe button or just come on back next week. Enough talking, I'm gonna get that metal detector turned on and see what we can find.
This is a loud 81. Holy smokes, it's a 3-ringer. You don't find those in the mountains of Vermont very often, that's for sure.
Well, this is a somewhat uncommon find for me up in the mountains of Vermont. I find bullets all day, dozens of them, both the shell casings and the bullets themselves, but very rarely do they look anything like this. This is the classic Civil War era 3-ringer bullet. Sometimes we'll find them that look similar to this, but they are modern muzzle loading rounds. This one though is the real deal. Now, I have said over and over in previous videos, there were no Civil War battles here in Vermont, and people always correct me and say, oh, well, what about the St. Albans raid when some Confederate soldiers robbed a few banks? Yes, that did happen, but there were no battles per se in Vermont where people would be shooting lots of bullets like these back and forth at each other. What more than likely happened was a Vermont Civil War soldier came home, had his gun with him, and then used it for hunting, deer hunting more than likely, up here in the mountains. That being said, I almost never find them. I think maybe this is the second or third I have ever found here in Vermont. I found quite a few of them down in North Carolina at a Civil War battle site, but they are quite uncommon up here. Awesome find. I don't get excited about bullets too often, but with this one, I am.
66. Ooh, nice. So this is just a little broken fragment of a chronal bell or a jingle bell or sleigh bell. And it's an old one. It's a beautiful white bronze. And there's actually an NO where it would say number. And then on the other side, it's of course missing. Would have been a number. 2 or probably a 2 or a 3. Beautiful. Unfortunately, obviously, like a quarter of it, but it's a nice old artifact. All right, in the road, a beautiful 90. Ooh, I see it. It looks like a big old coin. Yeah. Can we tell what kind? Ooh.
Man, I cannot believe it. This is by far one of my favorite types of old coins to find. It is not a US coin, it's not a British coin, it's not a foreign coin whatsoever. This is actually what we would call a hard times token. I cannot read the date on it yet, but it is almost certainly from the 1830s. During that time, there was a shortage of coinage in circulation, and so general stores and other manufacturers were taking it upon themselves to create coins and tokens. And this one, after cleaning it off just a little bit, I can make out Attleboro, Massachusetts, and below that, it says planing machine. This is an advertising token that could have been spent just like a large cent, a 1 cent coin, but this is actually an advertisement for a machine. I have never seen one like this before. I have seen political slogans, I have seen advertising for general stores, but this is actually advertising for a particular product. On the opposite side, it would have said, this machine is capable of planing, tonguing, and grooving, or jointing, or rabbiting 18 feet of boards or plank in a minute. 1834. On the opposite side, above the machine itself, it would have said Woodworth's patent made by S.E. Schneck. Now, we are quite a ways from Attleboro, Massachusetts today, up here in the mountains of Vermont, but you never know. Maybe the people that were here saw this coin and were convinced enough to buy a planer for themselves. I haven't found any pieces of that yet today, but you never know. Awesome old token.
Well, people oftentimes see these blue tubes in my videos and are always curious about what they are. And these are the more modern way of taking sap out of maple trees and then boiling it down to make maple syrup. And you'll have miles and miles and miles and miles of these tubes, all generally going downhill to a collecting tank. You can see they're all through here. And what I find interesting about this particular place is they are still making maple syrup here, just like they were 100, 200 years ago. And you can actually see evidence of an older operation here. A bunch of old buckets that they would have manually put on the trees and then dumped into a reservoir that they would have been dragging with horses. And there's another big pile of buckets down there. I just love seeing things like this where things have changed, clearly, the plastic tubing, but still out here making maple syrup. This target is a 77. That's pretty good. This well, we got a complete bell here, kinda. Yeah, this one is just absolutely smashed. I slowed 85. Ooh, what do we have here? Interesting.
Well, at first what I thought maybe was a barrel tap, right, for turning on and off water out of a barrel. Upon closer inspection, it seems like this is actually for gas. Now, when I think of gas being piped into a home, my mind immediately goes to natural gas or propane for heating your home. But this is actually more than likely from Victorian times. This is for lighting in a home. Now, as far as I understand it, Victorian lamps were powered by something called charcoal gas. Very basically, you would put charcoal in an oven and then the gas that came off of that was flammable. And these old lamps had a mantle inside that would glow and create light in the home. Now, as I understand it, most of this charcoal gas would be piped in from the town, but we are so far from anything today. That certainly wasn't the case here. I'm not sure if they were able to create their own gas themselves on the property and use that for lighting, but in any case, they had a shutoff or a valve for one of those old Victorian gas lamps here at this house, so they must have been using it in some capacity. Sometimes these are absolutely beautiful, covered with decoration and even gold plating. This one seems a bit more utilitarian, very simple brass, but it would have done the job just as well as those pretty ones. Really cool find for some old Victorian lighting, and it's gonna force me to do a little bit more research on how they may have been making some gas up here in the mountains.
68. See it. What do we think? Old spoon handle. How old? Oh, that looks like 1700s. Nothing else I've found is that old, but yeah, looks like an old lead pewter spoon handle. Interesting. Well, that kind of opens up the door for other things that we might be able to find here, unless, you know, people in the mid to late 1800s were still using 100-year-old spoons, but it seems unlikely. All right, that's a great sign. Let me see if we can find some more stuff from this time frame. Well, in the road, next to a mud pit, we have a very loud 86. Ooh. I just hear a piece of a beer can. No, it's this. Oh, nice. Day of the Bells.
Well, what I have here is yet another bell from this old property, but it is unlike the previous two jingle bells that I found. Those old jingle bells, we do oftentimes call them sleigh bells because they would have been wrapped around the horse on a strap of leather, but this is also a different kind of sleigh bell. This would have been in a string of maybe 3 or 4 on a metal strap, and it makes a lot of sense to find it here in the road, considering the maple sugaring history of this land. After speaking with the owners, they themselves used horses to remove the sap from this land many years ago. Maybe this actually belonged to them. They haven't really changed a whole lot over the years. This could very well have been on their sleigh or a sleigh 150, 200 years ago. Now, this actually isn't my first time on this property. I was invited here by Jason over at the Dirty Digs YouTube channel. We were here several months ago, and I believe one of the items he found was another jingle bell. So there certainly seems to be many of them here, which again makes a lot of sense because of the way this land has been used over the years. Awesome old bell, makes a whole lot of sense finding it here, and especially in the road. Well, despite the sun shining and it being relatively warm, it is snowing. It's that time of year, I guess. Got a beautiful target right here. Nice, clean, loud 91. Let's see. Ooh, no way! Oh my gosh. Unbelievable. Wow. Wow, wow. Well, ever since I found that pewter spoon earlier, I've been speculating that maybe this place is slightly older than I initially thought, maybe stretching back into the 1700s. But this thing that I just found all but confirms it. If you've ever seen one of my past videos, you probably already know what this is, and you probably know how much I love to find them. This is, of course, a colonial shoe buckle. Men and women would wear these on their shoes, just like the stereotypical pilgrim fashion that you can imagine. And technically these were in fashion up until around 1820 or so, but based on that spoon and this now, it definitely seems like folks were here in the 1700s. This one has a really aggressive curve to it. It is a nice, solid green brass material. Unfortunately, the chape and the fork on the inside are missing. They were very likely iron and just rusted away to nothing. I did double check the hole and I could not find them, but that's okay. What an incredible buckle, and what a surprise to find it here. Besides that spoon handle, really nothing else from the 1700s. So this is an absolute surprise, but a welcome one. Incredible.
All right, this is a beautiful sounding 90. This? Oh, all right. I thought that might have been a coin, but this is, actually looks a lot like, almost like a keychain. But it is a piece of horse tack. I feel like it's called a gag loop, something to that effect. Really actually kind of unique brass item. It could actually be probably cleaned up and used as a keychain. I don't see why not. But this is a relatively common find. I've maybe found half a dozen of these. So it actually has kind of a different design slightly than the ones I've found, with these little flattened off corners down here. Very cool. Old horse tack. Well, I'm in the trail, which would have been an old road at one time. Very, very loud. 92 right in the road. Sounds shallow. Oh, I don't know what it is, but it has writing on it. What is this? Here it is. Oh man, it's one of these. I know what this is.
All right, well, I have found these in the past, although I can honestly say I have never found one like this. Every once in a while, I'll be walking through, I'll get a nice high tone, brush away the leaves, and I'll see one of these, but they are always inset in a big slab of concrete. Despite it saying right on it, $250 fine or imprisonment for disturbing this mark, you wouldn't be able to disturb it even if you wanted to because of that big slab of concrete. This one, however, is not inset in concrete, and it's in the middle of an old road. That being said, I don't want to go to jail, so I'm gonna bury it here back where I found it. I have to suspect that this fell off the back of whatever they were traveling in as they were setting these up. These marks are supposed to be set at precise locations for the use of surveying. This one clearly dated 1942. Like I said, I don't think it's precisely supposed to be right in this location, but that's where it will stay. Let me know what you think. Would you have taken it with you or left it where you found it? All right, folks, well, I am calling it quits for the day on this brisk November afternoon. Actually, the first snow of the season, and I was in the woods for it. But regardless, I had a fantastic day. An old token I have never seen before, a shoe buckle, the things I love to find. Huge thanks to Jason over at Dirty Digs for introducing me to this property. If you haven't already seen his videos, definitely go check them out, and hopefully he and I can return here someday soon and make another video. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you happen to enjoy it so much you'd like to see a slightly longer version with more finds, more site context, and even some outtakes, this machine is capable of planing. Oh God, where'd it go? Consider becoming a Green Mountain member. All of the information for that will be down below this video in the comments section. Thanks again for watching, and hopefully you'll join me next Friday for another new adventure somewhere out here in the mountains of Vermont.